إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء، واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم، ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الأمور محدثاتها، وكل محدثة بدعة، وكل بدعة ضلالة، وكل ضلالة في النار. As we continue in this next aspect of worship, which is from the tafsir of La ilaha illallah, as we concluded the chapter which preceded the new one in which we are about to embark, and given a lot more details in regards to Nadhr, as we've mentioned in the previous classes, that we will break it down a little bit more in detail of this particular ibadah, or this worship of Allah Ta'ala. As we said, Ya Ma'ash al-Ikhwa, keep in mind that the hadith which is preceded in the last lesson, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ of Thabit ibn Dhahhak, even though we finished the chapter, keep in mind that particular hadith, because that hadith, or that particular narration, that hadith, which is in the previous chapter, and this one, this chapter which we're going to explain, all of it is connected. Even though the hadith of Thabit ibn Dhahhak, where the man has said, نَحَرَ رَجُلٌ أو نَظَرَ رَجُلًا يَنْحَرَ بِبُوَانَةٍ إلى آخر hadith, that the man who took a vow that he was going to slaughter those group of sheep at a place called Buwana. The point of the hadith, if we look inside of it, it says at the end of the narration, what everyone? It says the Prophet ﷺ had asked those two questions. What did he say? He says, هل كان فيها وثن من أوثان الجاهلية تعبد? Was it in a place, or in that particular place when you want to fulfill your vow, an idol from the idols of Jahiliyyah that was worshipped? And to the end of the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ has said, أوفي بنذرك فإنه لا وفاء لنذر في معصية الله ولا في ما لا يملك بنو آدم. He said there's no fulfillment of a vow, of course, the disobedience of Allah, or what Ibn Adam does not own, meaning either qadaran or shar'an, or what Ibn Adam does not own. We said that breaks down into two categories. As we said last class, we said number one, what did we say, everyone? This was mentioned in the last class. He says, فِي مَا لَا يَمْلِكُ بِنُ آدَمْ قَدْرًا. Or we can say number one, shar'an, of what Ibn Adam does not own, as far as what's in his possession, or under his what? Under his ownership. That's as far as the shara' of what Ibn Adam does not own. For a person cannot take a vow if something that is not in his possession. Also, likewise, we said also the meaning of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ here. He says, فِيمَا لَا يَمْلِكُ بِنُ آدَمْ, of what Ibn Adam does not own. Also, likewise, means what, everyone? قَدْرًا, as far as in regards to what Allah has preordained within or amongst the creation. For example, what did we say? For example, if Allah cures my brother, or if Allah cures my mother, or if He cures my relatives, then it's upon me for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to fly in the air. person cannot fly in the air, of course, based upon the qadr of Allah in his body. He does not have wings. For that reason, that is not in his ability. For that reason, that particular nadhr or that particular vow is not what? It's not permissible for one to do. For verily, ya ma'ashar al-ikhwa, that hadith of Thabit ibn Dhahhak al-Ashhali, the Sahabi, and other than what is going to come, hold on to those particular narrations. So you notice after the chapter we finished, where we started actually, the hadith says, Babu in ash-shirki an-nadhru li ghayrillah. We said the chapter from polytheism is to take a vow or offer a vow to other than Allah. What is a vow? Or to take a vow? A vow means, ya ma'ashar al-ikhwa, or how is, before we get inside, we actually talked about the definition, but no problem if we repeat it again. كما يقال تكرار أحلى. As we said, that the meaning of another is ilzam al-abd, or ilzam al-mukallaf, نفسه بشيء طاعة لله لم تكن واجبة بأصل الشرع, as we said last class. As we said, the meaning another is that the slave bonds upon himself something of obedience to Allah, which in its origin was not obligatory by the Kitaab and Sunnah. In its origin, it was not obligatory by Kitaab and Sunnah. What is the wording? What is the actual sigha? What is the wording that is used in this regard? For a person that he says, for example, if Allah cures my sick, and you notice that it's an exchange. There's an ibadah, or this particular type of worship, has in it some type of what? It's as if he has some type of da'f, or he has some weakness in his trustworthiness with Allah Ta'ala. So for that reason, he thinks that whatever he needs in his life, or in his worldly affairs, or even in his religion, that he has to do something for Allah in order for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give it to him. And that, for that reason, you'll find that some of Ahl Ilm say that another is impermissible due to this effect, due to this reason, and other reasons, as it's going to come. Fine. So that is the meaning of another. Another is ilzam al-mukallaf نفسه شيئا طاعة أو بشيء طاعة لله لم تكن واجبة بأصل الشرع. Is to bind, or the slave to bind upon himself something, an obedience to Allah, and it was not obligatory in the origin of Kitab and Sunnah. So that's the meaning of another. Meaning Allah Ta'ala did not bind that particular matter, or that amal, or that action upon you. How does one offer a vow? What does he say? For example, it's upon me for Allah to do such and such. Or, for example, if Allah does this for me, then it's upon me for Allah to do such and such. That's a vow. If Allah grants me 4 children, or makes my wife pregnant with a female or male, then it's upon me for Allah to fast 2 weeks straight. That's a vow. That's the actual sirah, or the wording of how it actually what takes place by that type of wording. We said, ya ma'ashar al-ikhwa, as we said previously in the last lesson, what did we say? We said in the last lesson the different types of vows. But that's how one would perform it if he wanted to what? Do this particular worship. For this worship, ya ma'ashar al-ikhwa, some of Ahl Ilm say that it's actually detested to do this worship. It's makruh. Some of them lean towards it being actually haram, as you'll find that is actually present in the Kitaab of Shaykh al-Islam, or what Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah mentions, as we'll mention it briefly inshallah. Why, ya ma'ashar al-ikhwa? Due to the hadith, as we mentioned last class, where the Prophet ﷺ said, La tandhiru. That's the first thing. The Prophet ﷺ said, do not take a vow. So if something was encouraged in the Kitab and Sunnah for one to do it, then you'll find numerous ahadith that the Prophet ﷺ praised the one that did this particular act of worship. However, the origin you'll find when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had, when he had mentioned this particular worship, you'll find in the narration he's actually discouraging one to do it. For number one, he says, don't take a vow. La tandiru. That's number one. And then another thing, as we talked about before, which comes in the Sahihain, which is in the Bukhari and Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّهُ لَا يَأْتِ بِخَيْرٍ إِنَّمَا يُسْتَخْرَجُ بِهِ مِنَ الْبَخِيلِ. You'll find in another narration the Prophet ﷺ said that another does not bring any good. And verily it is extracted from the one who is stingy. So all these narrations is what? You'll find in it, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, what? Discouragement not to do it. So the Prophet ﷺ was discouraging to the point where, like we said, if one was to do it, then now it becomes binding upon him to carry it out. However, in its origin, this ibadah is just as the great Imam, Sheikh Muhammad Aman al-Jami, that he mentioned about this worship, where he said that it's a ibadatun mustaqillatun fadha. It's a worship that it stands out alone in itself. Why? Because you'll never find any of the ibadat of Allah Ta'ala it being discouraged for one to do, other than this particular worship. But in its origin, like we said, you'll never find any ibadah of the different types of ibadat of Allah Ta'ala that is discouraged that one do it, except this one. That's why he called it ibadatun mustaqillatun fadha. That's why he called it an affair of worship that stands out alone by itself. Why? Why, everyone? Because, like we said, it is in regards to this worship being discouraged and that one not do it, or as some of Ahl Ilm mentioned to say, that it's haram for one to what? To actually perform this aspect of worship. You'll find numerous ayat in the book of Allah Ta'ala that it is, even though in its origin is disliked that one do it, or in certain instances, as we'll mention, some of Ahl Ilm say it's haram. If one wants to do it, if he does it now, it's binding upon him certain affairs. Number one, it has to be for Allah. It can't be for other than Allah. If it's for other than Allah, it will nullify Islam. Because it is still considered a type of ibadah. And it has to be solely and exclusively for Allah Ta'ala, wahdahu la sharika lah. For one now is to do it, ya ma'ashal ikhwah, then if he did it for other than Allah, it nullifies his Islam. His Islam or her Islam is nullified. That's the general hukum. So that's number one. So the first affair was binding upon the one that if he does it, even though it's discouraged that he do it, but if you do it now, then you have to fulfill it. For number one, it has to be for Allah. You'll find numerous ayat in the book of Allah Ta'ala, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually said from the sifat, the characteristic of the mu'mineen, that they fulfill their vows. Number one is what was mentioned in this chapter. But there's other ayats, but he sufficed by mentioning one, which is in Surah Al-Dahr or Surah Al-Insan. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, يُوفُونَ بِالنَّذْرِ وَيَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا كَانَ شَرُّهُ مُسْتَطِيرًا. He said that they fulfill their vows, meaning on the day of resurrection, which is in Surah Al-Insan, ayat number 7. It's in your book. It's in there. Well, Allah Ta'ala says in your book, where it says in his book, he says, يُوفُونَ بِالنَّذْرِ وَيَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا كَانَ شَرُّهُ مُسْتَطِيرًا. He said that the mu'mineen, he says that they fulfill their vows. That's from their characteristic. And they fear a day where their evil will be widespread, meaning it will be exposed on the day of resurrection. But for the sifat of the mu'mineen, like we said, ya ma'ashal ikhwah, is that they fulfill their vows. So number one, it has to be for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number two, as we'll talk about inshallah, from the conditions of another, is it has to be obedience. As that based upon the hadith that we mentioned in the previous class and in the previous lesson, in the other chapter that we finalized a couple of lessons ago. So number one, it has to be what? For Allah. It has to be for Tawheed, meaning it has to be unified. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to be unified in his worship in that particular ibadah. Number one. Number two, what is binding upon the abd is that it has to be what? It has to be obedience. It has to be something of ta'ah. It has to be obedience. It cannot be what? Disobedience. For example, if it's upon me for Allah to drink 10 bottles of alcohol, or is it coming upon me for Allah to jump off a cliff, or is it coming upon me for Allah to steal a car, or have you. All of that is disobedience, and it's prohibited that one fulfill that particular vow. Number three, what is incumbent upon the abd if he now performs this aspect of ibadah. Number three is that he now has to what? Or has to be under his what? His ownership or possession. Either it being qadari or shara'i. Either it being from the aspect of Kitaab and Sunnah, meaning of what the various types of people, what they own in their possession, their car, house, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. A lot of things. Or what is in your physical capability. If it's out of your physical capability, if it's out of your possession, then what? Then one does not perform that particular vow. So like we said, once one has bound upon himself, or he's now put himself, we could say, for lack of better words, a jam, because he did put himself in a jam now. He has to fulfill this vow. What is binding upon him now, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, is that he has to what? Number one, he has to unify Allah in his particular worship. Number two, has to be obedience. Number three, it has to be in his possession. Of what he's able, meaning in his possession of what he owns, and what he owns as far as in his ability physically, or capability physically. Can't say for upon me for Allah to jump on top of a high building from the ground on up. It's not your ability. You can't do it. So that reason, we said that those type of what conditions have to be fulfilled. Type. What's incumbent upon one also likewise to realize in this particular aspect is, as one had asked me in the particular class, or actually in the previous class, they asked me, what is kafaratu yameen? What is it? Because that is going to be what we're going to talk about in this class, in which one has to what? Know what is a kafaratu yameen. And you're going to see why I'm mentioning this now, because there's a lot of ahkam. For if one was to break his vow, then he have to perform what they call kafaratu yameen, as we'll talk about and discuss. What is a kafaratu yameen, everyone? Kafaratu yameen, or expiation of when a person swears. As we talked about, we're going to speak how there's similarities between a vow and when one what? Swears. There are similarities in certain aspects. First of all, a vow is not a what? It's not a, as they say, al-yameen. It's not. They're two different things. They're two different wordings. We just gave an example of what is a what? Another. Just a couple of minutes ago. We said how a person performs it. He says, it's upon me for Allah, if so-and-so does this, or if Allah does, if Allah does this for me, then it's upon me for Allah to do such and such. That's nadar. Yameen is just saying, wallahi, tallahi, billahi, I swear by Allah. That's al-yameen. That's what al-yameen is. Some people mix up another. They think another is yameen and yameen is another. No, they're different in certain aspects, no doubt, and they're similar in certain aspects. But they're not the same affair, or they're not the same ibadah, not the same worship. Right. So yameen, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, what do we say? That's swearing by Allah. Right. What is a kafaratul yameen? What is that? Kafaratul yameen, keep in mind, I'm going to explain why we mentioned this in a couple of minutes. Don't worry, it's going to come. Kafaratul yameen is what was mentioned in Surah Al-Ma'idah. Allah Ta'ala says in the book, فكفارته إطعام 10 مساكين من أوسط ما تطعمون أهليكم أو كسوتهم أو تحرير رقبة فمن لم يجد فصيام 3 أيام ذلك كفارة أيمانكم إذا حلفتم واحفظوا أيمانكم. Allah Ta'ala says in his book, meaning if one was to break his what? His oath, or break what he swore by Allah by he was going to do or not going to do to the end of it. If he did not fulfill it, or what they call hinth al-yameen, don't worry, it's going to come, don't worry. Meaning that you broke your oath, or you broke your vow. You have to make an expiation which is called kafarat al-yameen. Kafarat al-Yameen, expiation of al-Yameen, was mentioned in Surah Al-Ma'idah. I'll give you the ayah after the class is over. At any rate, Kafarat al-Yameen is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned when He says, إِطْعَامُ عَشْرَةِ مَسَاكِينَ, that you have to feed 10 impoverished poor people from the middle course of how you will feed your family. So that's Kafarat al-Yameen, number one. Number two, also to dress, if you're not able to do that, then to clothe them. Those 10 impoverished poor people. That's what Kafarat al-Yameen means. عشرة مساكين من أوسط ما تطعين مع أهلك أو كسوتهم أو تحرير رقبة, or to clothe them, or to free a slave or a concubine. That is the expiation of your aman, of your oaths and your vows, if you was to break them. However, Allah Ta'ala said, what everyone? Guard and protect what you swore by Allah, by that you were either going to do or not going to do. So, number one, the kafala is what, everyone? Feeding of 10 impoverished people, but of the middle course of what you will feed your own family. Number two, or to clothe them. Or number three is what? Or to free a slave. That's the meaning of kafarat al-Yameen. That's the meaning of what, everyone? Kafarat al-Yameen. It's the meaning of expiation of your vow or your oath or what have you. So in this regard, al-Yameen and another is similar. How? Al-Yameen, which you swore by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're going to leave off or what you're going to do. Or another, here in this instance, they are similar. Meaning as far as their expiation. For the expiation is mentioned in Surah Al-Ma'idah, as we just mentioned. Right, everyone? Right. So let's go backtrack a little bit. From the previous class, we said that nadhar of different types. You have another which is, as we said previously, you have different types of nadhar, of why people do it. Nadhar. Now we're not talking about yameen, but I'm going to what? Incorporate it. Right. Going backtracking a little bit. Number one, we said that the first type of nadhar is nadhar of what, everyone? Ta'ah, of obedience. Of obedience. Of obedience. Right. Let's just say a person now binding upon himself a particular vow he was not able to do. He said, for example, if it's upon me for Allah, for example, if Allah cures my sick, or if Allah cures my mother, then it's upon me for Allah to fast a year straight. Right. If he says this, it's binding upon him to carry out. Then he finds that he does not have the strength to do it. Right. What does he do? He does kafarat al-Yameen. He will break his what? He will break his vow, and he will have to perform what? An expiation of what they call kafarat al-Yameen, or expiation of Yameen. Here. Because he what? He couldn't fulfill it. Right. What is kafarat al-Yameen? What we just mentioned. Either feeding 10 impoverished people from the middle course of what you feed your family, or number two, clothe them. And third is what? Free a slave. Right. That's kafarat al-Yameen. Right. Number two of what we mentioned of the type of nadhar is what, everyone? Of disobedience. What they call nadhar al-Ma'siyah. Nadhar al-Ma'siyah, some of Ahl Ilm, as we know, the first type and the most ultimate type of disobedience is what? Is shirk, polytheism. Type. A person now says, for example, if my sick is cured, then it's upon me for Abdul Qadir al-Jilani for me to fast 10 days straight. This right here is what? Shirk, polytheism. And it's a type of what? It's a type of disobedience. It's the most ultimate of disobedience, which is shirk. Type. In this second type of nadhar, what do we say, ya ma'ish al-ikhwa? Here, in this particular one, he does not perform kafarat al-Yameen. Why? Because it's shirk. It's major polytheism. So as a result of it, what do we say? He has to just make tawbah. So there is no kafara here. The kafara here is the tawbah. If a person falls to major polytheism, you have to make tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's no what? Expiation. Because the nadhar never even carried out in the first place. Why? Because it's polytheism. And it's not acceptable with Allah Ta'ala. Shirk. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? طيب. So that second type of nadhr, of disobedience, the highest form of it is what? Shirk. It's polytheism. We said that polytheism, in regards to if a person was to do this type of nadhr, or this type of vow, if he made it, it does not carry out, rather it's binding upon him to make tawbah to Allah. There's another type of disobedience. For example, a person say, if Allah cures my sickness, upon me for Allah to fast. No, it's upon me for Allah. It's upon me for Allah to steal a car. It's upon me for Allah to go to the club. It's upon me for Allah to drink some intoxicants. This type of nadhr is what? Disobedience. Like, does it carry out or not? Does this type of nadhr carry out or not? Ahl ilm, some of them differ in this regard, as far as nadhr al-ma'siyah. From, they say, as Ahl ilm, from them is the madhab al-Imam Ahmad, and that is the strongest qawl as far as the madhab. But however, the great Imam, Ahl al-Sunnah, Imam al-Salafi, Sheikh Ahmad Najmi, and he mentioned and said that this particular nadhr, you'll find there is some ikhtilaf in it, slightly, in regards to what nadhr is disobedience. And Imam Ahmad Najmi, he mentioned and said, never carries out at all. So in that particular instance, is it binding upon him expiation or not? Does it carry out at all? Huh? Sheikh Ahmad Najmi said, does it carry out? Does it carry out? Meaning, there's no expiation upon him. However, there is a lot of Ahl ilm, which I'm leaning towards, what Sheikh Uthaymeen, Sheikh Salih Fawzan mentions, and other than that another still is upon him if he does a type of disobedience in his vow that he takes. Of course, he doesn't fulfill it at all. That's agreed upon. No matter who it is from Ahl ilm, it's agreed upon. However, he still will have to make a what? Still have to make an expiation. He still has to make what they call kafarat al-yamin. What's kafarat al-yamin? Again, either feed 10 impoverished people for the middle course of what you feed your family. That's number one. Number two, clothe them or free a slave or concubine. Free a slave or concubine. So that's the kafarat al-yamin. So every time I make kafarat al-yamin and I say that, everyone should know what I'm speaking about. Like we said, the kafarat al-yamin is mentioned in Surah Al-Ma'idah. I'll give it to everyone at the class, because I forgot the number. But it's in Surah Al-Ma'idah. It says كفارة إطعام 10 مساكين من أوسط ما تطعمون أهلكم أو كسوتهم أو تحرير رقبة فمن لم يجد فصيام 3 أيام ذلك كفارة أيمانكم إذا حلفتم واحفظوا. Notice he said حلف, which means yameen, means qasam too. واحفظوا أيمانكم. And Allah Ta'ala called it Ayman, meaning yameen. So it's كفارة اليمين. طيب, the other type of nadhr that we mentioned from last class was what they call, he says, النظر الذي يجري مجرى اليمين. Another type of what? النظر الذي يجري مجرى اليمين. A type of nadhr where it what? It's as if it's similar to what? Of swearing. Where a person uses it, say if let's just say for example, if we're going to say it's mubah. It's natural for one to do this. For example, if it's raining, matter of fact, if he might say, for example, you're going to have to put a condition on it. Let's just say, for example, he says, it's upon me for Allah to wear the stove today. It's almost as if he's saying what? Wallahi, I'm going to wear the stove today. So that's how they say it. In this instance, it's similar to what? Swearing. So it's upon me for Allah to wear the stove today. Or it's similar to just like a person as if he say, Wallahi, I'm going to swear the stove today. So that's the third type of what? So third type of nadhr that we said. So that is, we don't say permissible, but we say it's mubah. It's natural that one can what? Do it. The fourth type of nadhr, what we say, everyone? What they call nadhr al-ghadab al-lijaj. Al-lijaj. Now, that a person is lying or to show the truth or to prove some type of truth or to belie a lie or what have you, or to put emphasis, strong emphasis on something. So is it raining outside? No, it's not raining outside, even though this is petty. It's raining outside. No, it's raining. No, it's not raining outside. If it's raining outside, then it's upon me for Allah to fast 3 days straight. Huh? It's almost as if he's trying to belie what he's saying, or put emphasis, or he's trying to establish the truth. Jayid? Even though someone should do it, especially if he's angry. Tayyib. But however, if one does it, he has to watch it. Because now, like we said, if he does it, then it's binding upon him to what? To do it. Now, let's just say he cannot do it. He cannot do it. He said out of anger, if it's raining outside, it's upon me for Allah. It's upon me for Allah to fast a year straight. Whoa, a year straight? Fine. So now in this regard, he finds that he does not have the ability to do it. Or if he says, for example, if Allah, we keep it the example. You do it now. If you make this type of another, then it's what? And if he wants to break it, what they call hinth. If he breaks it, now it's coming upon him to what? Perform what, everyone? Kafaratul Yameen. So notice the reason why I keep mentioning Kafaratul Yameen, Kafaratul Yameen, Kafaratul Yameen. Now you know why I gave it to you. I gave it to everyone because that's the expiation for a vow. A vow. So in this regard, you'll find that swearing and a vow is similar in this regard. Is it clear what I'm saying? Right, the other type of nadhr, what do we say? You have what they call nadhr, al-makruh. You have another type of nadhr, which is what? Nadhr al-makruh. This disliked. This disliked. I think that's clear. That's clear. It's upon me for Allah to dig up my nose. It's upon me for Allah to divorce my wife. If a person says that, if Allah cures me, cures my children, it's upon me for Allah to divorce my wife. Tayyib. We say divorcing your wife is haram. We're not saying that, but it is highly hated and detested. Especially if you're doing it. Now, it becomes ma'asiyah if you're divorcing her and it's in a time where she's on a fence. But if he says this, then it's binding upon him to do it. But if he sees that, of course, this is not befitting at all, then he has to perform what? Kafaratul Yameen. Kafaratul Yameen. Now, due to the lack of knowledge of certain people, they'll just what? They'll just divorce their wife. Not realizing that you could have just did what? Kafaratul Yameen to get yourself out of the what? Out of the jam you put yourself in. And that is the shooting. And that is the bad negativity of ignorance. Because a person now would think, now it's binding upon me to divorce my wife. In actuality, you could have seen what? You could have just, in order to get yourself out of it, you could have just what? Performed Kafaratul Yameen. Is it clear, everyone? The last type of nadhr that we said was what, everyone? A general nadhr. A general type of nadhr. For a general type of nadhr is where you do not specify what you're going to do. You just say, for example, if Allah cures my sick, then it's upon me for Allah a vow. Tayyib. What kind of vow? What? You didn't specify. What's the thing you wanted to fulfill? Here, the Prophet ﷺ made it clear, of course, in narration, which we'll talk about, inshallah. It says for the ibad, he says, Amal abd, the meaning of the hadith more or less is, فَعَلَى الْعَبْدِ الَّذِي لَمْ يُسَمِّي فَكَفَّرَتُهُ كَفَّرَةُ الْيَمِينِ. He says, for the abd that did not specify what he was going to fulfill, then it's incumbent upon him to what? Perform kafarat al-yameen. So notice I say kafarat al-yameen, just about almost all of them if one doesn't fulfill it. Tayyib, except shirk. Shirk is no kafarat al-yameen. The kafara is tawbah, is repentance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Doesn't even carry out. And the second one, like we said, is mukhtalafun fi. It's a different of opinion amongst Ahl al-Ilm. And I'll just read it quickly. Listen to what, and I'll just read let's go back everyone to the second one. طيب. Just as Sheikh Abdurrahman bin Hassan Ali Sheikh that he mentioned in Fath al-Majid, he gave a little bit of benefit. Just want to read it quickly. Sheikh Abdurrahman bin Hassan Ali Sheikh, rahimahullah, صاحب فتح المجيد, that he mentioned and said, وَمَا كَانَ مِن نَظْرِ الْمَعْصِيَةِ فَلَا يَجُوزُ الْوَفَاءُ بَهِ بإجماع العلماء واختلفوا هل تجب فيه كفارة يمين على قولين هما روايتان عن أحمد أنه يجب وهو المذهب. I just mentioned this. He says in regards to a vow of disobedience, so what we're talking about, which one, everyone? Which category? Number two. Number two. He says, with a consensus of Ahl Ilm, that one does not what? He does not carry it out. He doesn't fulfill it. However, they do differ as far as kafaratu yameen. Ala qawlayn. What is the statement of the madhab? Is that it is what? It's still obligatory. It was related. Notice it said bisiqat tad'if. There's some da'f in it. It was related upon Ibn Mas'ud and Ibn Abbas. And also, the one who goes to the statement is Abu Hanifa and his companions. The companions are the people who took knowledge from Abu Hanifa. And there's a hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, marfu'an. And that's what Shaykh Ahmed Najmi used. But just listen. طيب. For the second statement is that there's no nadhr in what? La nadhra fi ma'siyah. There's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ which is sahih. It's authentic. Where it says that there's no vow in disobedience. There's no vow in disobedience. And that its expiation is an expiation of kafaratu yamin. This is the reason why I lean towards, of course, is now we have a text for the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Khalas. Even though we, alhamdulillah, the great Imam من أئمة أهل السنة في هذا العصر أحمد نجمي رحمه الله. It's major upon his ijtihad. He'll be rewarded for his ijtihad. Like we said in this regard, there's a text. The Prophet ﷺ. It's sahih. Where he said, there is no nadhr in disobedience. لا نظر في معصية. وكفارته كفارة يمين. This expiation is expiation of yameen. So based upon that, that's also been related to Imam Ahmed in his Muslim. This is also another narration upon Imam Ahmed, Ishaq bin Rahuya or Ishaq bin Rahuya, that you'll find that they mention and say that there's no expiation upon him. وروي ذلك عن مسروق ibn Ajda'. I switched it up, everyone. I'm sorry. I switched it up. Matter of fact, I was right. Alhamdulillah. I was right the first time. I'm sorry. My phone was thinking about something else. Fine. So that's the one that says the kafara is kafaratu yamin. So that's the reason why we said what? The qawl Shaykh Uthaymeen and Shaykh Salih Fawzan, and other than them, khalas, we have a text to say that is what? That the person, that he what? Still has to make expiation. Even though it's what? It's disobedience. Jayid? Is it clear? Jayid. طيب. What's the next hadith? So also all the different types of what? All the different types of nadhr that we just gave. طيب. Read the ayats for me, inshallah. I think it gives one part of the ayat. Read the ayat. Just read the ayat in the hadith. The chapter is not that long. No. No, this is صوت الدهر وصوت الإنسان. آية number 7. No. جيد. تفضل. تفضل. This is صوت البقرة. No, the previous one was صوت الإنسان. This one's صوت البقرة. That's it. جيد. This is صوت البقرة. So he suffices to mention what? 2 ayats. There's other ayats more than that. What was mentioned in the book. Surah Al-Hajj. It's another ayah. What was it mentioned? But there's another ayah, Surah Al-Hajj. Alhamdulillah, we're speaking about Hajj. Hajj is about to start in about a couple of weeks. It says, وَلْيَقْضُوا تَفَثَهُمْ وَلْيُوفُوا نُذُورَهُمْ وَلْيَطَوَّفُوا بِالْبَيْتِ الْعَتِيقِ. It's in there too. It says Surah Al-Hajj. وَلْيُوفُوا نُذُورَهُم. It's in there. At any rate, these are all evidences and proofs clearly from Kitaab, the book of Allah Ta'ala, saying that another is a type of what? Worship, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised the people who do it and fulfill it. And that they will deserve entering paradise for the one who does it. Even though, like we said, in its origin it's disliked to do it, and in regards to certain aqwal from Ahl al-Ilm, they say it's haram. As we'll talk about, they lean towards the statement that it's haram to do another, which we'll discuss in a minute. Tafadal, I'm sorry, Ali. Here in this narration, it what shows the conditions what we've been discussing. Number one is what, everyone? That another has to be, number one, it has to be for Allah. Can't be polytheism. Number two, has to be ta'ah. And number three, has to be what Ibn Adam owns. Qadaran wa shara'an, both. Not as far as what certain people just say what is in his possession, that's it. No. Also what is in your physical capability. Okay, everyone? What's in your physical capability. Also likewise. Type. So this hadith and the other ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ shows that another is an aspect of worship where it's supposed to be obedience for Allah Ta'ala. Type. Notice that Ahl al-Ilm, like we said, discourage one from what? Doing it. Or like we said, some of Ahl al-Ilm will go towards the actual lean towards the qawl that it's haram to do it. As what we said, now this is what exactly what was mentioned by Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, وَبَعْضُ الْعُلَمَاء يُحَرِّمُهُ. It's clear. وَبَعْضُ الْعُلَمَاء يُحَرِّمُهُ وَإِلَيْهِ يَمِيلُ شَيْخُ الْإِسْلَامِ تَيْمِيَّةً. He says some of Ahl al-Ilm say it's haram to do it. And the one who leans towards that qawl, Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah. Why did he say that, ya ma'ashar al-ikhwa? He says, لِأَنَّكَ تلزم نفسك بأمر أنت في عافية منه وكم الإنسان النظر وأخيرا ندم وربما لم يفعل ويدل لقوة القول بتحريم النذر قوله تعالى وأقسموا بالله جهد أيمانهم لا يخرجون قال الله تبارك وتعالى طاعة معروفة الآية. Surah An-Nur, I think it is. I was right. This is Surah An-Nur. طيب. Shaykh al-Islam had mentioned that it goes to the statement, or the hukum that is prohibited to do it. Why? He said because you're binding yourself upon, or binding yourself with something that we're totally free from doing it. That's number one. There's other reasons. As he's going to explain. There's other reasons. The other reason I already explained to all the brothers, meaning that is as if he's making a condition upon Allah in order for him to attain something, he has to what? Do something for Allah to do something for him. If you go back to the wording of another, what do we say, everyone? If Allah what? Does this for me, then it's upon me for Allah to what? Do this for him. So what you attain from Allah has to be based upon something has to be some type of compensation in exchange. Is it clear? That's why he mentions in the ayah. Here it's talking about yameen, but it's still in the same context of what's related to another. Here in this ayah, which is in Surah An-Nur, ayah number 53. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and they swear by Allah, exhausting and wearing out their what? Their oaths and their vows. They'll say, if you command us, we'll go out. So Allah ta'ala said to them, why do you have to make and swear, or why do you have to bind upon yourself by swearing upon Allah or doing this? If it's obedience of Allah, just do it. Don't do what? Don't have to swear or exhaust or make or wear out what you swearing about, or you're going to make a vow about, or what have you. Just do the obedience. That's had to be what? A stipulation where you have to say, oh Allah, if you do this for me, I'll do this for you. Or if you command me, then, or if someone so commands me, then I'll do this for you. To the end of it. That is the reason why it's what? One of the reasons why you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam, you mentioned why it's what? Is not disliked only, but it's also, he mentions that it's what? It's haram. He goes to the tahrim of it. So that's what he even mentioned. Even Shaykh Uthaymeen says the exact same thing we just mentioned here. He says, عَلَيْكُمْ طَاعَةً مَعْرُوفًا بِدُونِ يَمِينٍ. It's upon you to perform this aspect of worship without swearing. والإنسان الذي لا يفعل الطاعة إلا بنذر أو حلف على نفسه يعني أن الطاعة ثقيلة عليه. He said, for the person that does not do obedience except he has to perform some type of what? Vow or swear or what have you. He sets to swear upon himself it's as if he's showing that obedience is heavy upon him. It's as if it's a what? It's a burden. And it's also as if, as we'll talk about, in exchange for what? Some type of what is requested, where it has to be reciprocal. It has to be some type of reciprocal. And that's also, you'll find that likewise, Uthaymeen kind of is as if he's agreeing with Shaykh al-Islam. When you find him mention to say, وَمِمَّا يَدُلْ عَلَى قُوَّةِ الْقَوْلِ بِالتَّحْرِيمِ أيضا خصوصا النظر المعلق. He says especially a conditional what? Type of nazar. He says that the conditional nazar that he says is as if he's not trustworthy with Allah. As if he has the belief that Allah will not give him some type of cure or some type of remedy for whoever he needs it for, except that it has to be some type of an exchange or reciprocal for it. It says, وَلِهَذَا إِذَا أَيِّسُوا مِنَ الْبُرْءِ ذَهَبُوا يَنْذِرُونَ. That's why if they see that Allah has not preordained for them a cure for someone in their family who's sick or whatever, he said they give up, so now they want to go to now what? Another. Thinking that it's as if Allah is going to give it to them if they what? If they do this. You'll find this is a lot prevalent in a lot of more Muslim countries. They're quick to do another. They're quick to do it. Very quick. Not realizing the what? Attaining knowledge and realizing, first of all, how it's dispraiseworthy in the Kitaab and Sunnah. It's dispraiseworthy. First, we had the Prophet ﷺ that clearly said, La tandhiru. That's not clear? La tandhiru. Don't take a vow. Is that not clear enough? Then in the next narration, he says, La ya'ti bi khairin. It doesn't bring any good. And it's only extracted from the one who's stingy. طيب. We also talked about the hadith with the Prophet ﷺ here in this last part, and we'll see that, finish the chapter. It says, whoever offers a vow to disobey Allah, then let him not disobey his Lord, subhanahu wa ta'ala. We already gave a little bit of details in that a couple of minutes ago. What did we say, everyone? We said if it's shirk, there's no what? There's no expiation. If there is disobedience, but it's still tawheed, but it's disobedience. Huh? Does he have to fulfill it? Doesn't fulfill it. By the ijma'. By ijma', one doesn't fulfill it. But he has to what? We said that the strongest opinion, based upon the text of the Prophet ﷺ, is that what? He has to do expiation. For example, if Allah cures my sister of her osteoporosis, or if he cures her of her diabetes, it's upon me for Allah to steal a car. You understand? This is disobedience. Does he have to perform a kafarat al-yameen based upon what we mentioned in the text of the Prophet ﷺ? He said what? We said he has to do it. He has to perform a kafarat al-yameen, expiation. Is it clear, everyone? Fine. Read the masail, read the matters, so we can wrap up the lesson. طيب الأولى, the first matter, the great Imam, as he mentioned, said وجوب الوفاء بالنذر يعني نذر الطاعة فقط لقوله من نذر أن يطيع الله فليطيعه. Number one, the first matter is the obligation of fulfilling what, everyone? A vow. And we mean by that fulfillment, mean the fulfillment of ta'ah, of obedience. Due to the fact that the Prophet ﷺ made it clear, whoever vows to obey Allah, let him obey him. And then also likewise we mentioned it said, the third is that the vow of disobedience is not permissible to fulfill it. طيب, second, AbdurRazzaaq, تفضل. No. He says it is, if couldn't confirm. It is affirmed though. بِكَوْنِهِ عِبَادَةً. Forgiving it to other than Allah, like we said, is what? Shirk. This is a principle in Tawheed and Ibadah as far as in the aspect of what? Tawheed al-Uluhiyya or Tawheed al-Ibadah. That any action, if it's Ibadah, giving it to other than Allah is polytheism. No. Last one. No, I'm sorry. Tfadal, I'm sorry. Not permit. Another al-ma'siyah فلا يجوز الوفاء به. Now, disobedience, one does not fulfill it due to the fact of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Excuse me for 1 second. No, we'll suffice by this, inshallah. طيب. Hey, the last one is close, alhamdulillah. طيب, then another al-ma'siyah, where the vow of disobedience is not permissible for one, nor to fulfill it at all. So whoever vows to disobey Allah, then do not disobey Him. As a narration I'm going to bring, I forgot I remembered it from last year. I totally forgot. طيب. The hadith in which I'll explain next class, inshallah, before we start the new chapter of Isti'adah, I'm going to explain this. There's a narration that's in Sunnah Abi Dawood. Who's Abu Dawood's name? Gave it to everyone last class. What's Abu Dawood's real name? Who was his close companion? Rather, it was also from his mashayikh. Huh? Imam Ahmed. Imam Ahmed. طيب, what's Abu Dawood's real name? Oh, you gotta read it from the book. Sulaiman, huh? Ibn Ash'ath, Ibn, huh? You gotta read it from the book. Ishaq, Ibn Bashir, Ibn Shaddad, Al-Azdi, Al-Sijistani. Al-Azdi, Sijistani. The book that we went through, Ha'iyah, is that by Abu Dawood or was that by his son? His son, Abdullah, Abu Muhammad, Abdullah, Ibn Sulaiman, Ibn Ash'ath, Ibn Ishaq, Ibn Bashir, Ibn Shaddad, Al-Azdi, Al-Sijistani. Have these names memorized. Just like you have LeBron James and all these other people memorized, have these names memorized. All these other names that people have memorized. They got all the sports players' names memorized. This person can play defense, this person can play offense. This person, he got a nice jump shot. What's these other players they say? Who's his name? Steph Curry and all these other people. Have the names memorized very well. Memorize the people who help protect your religion. Jayid. Right. There's one narration which is in Sunnah Abi Dawood. I want to read this quickly and I want everybody to think about this. Ponder on this narration. Ponder on it. There was a woman, قالت يا رسول الله إني نظرت أن أضرب على رأسك بالدف. فقال صلى الله عليه وسلم لها أوفي بنذرك. Ponder on this narration and we'll explain it next class. I'm going to explain it to everyone. So I know some people will be like, what is the meaning of the hadith? Just listen. A woman said, O Messenger of Allah, I obtained another that I would strike the duf over your head, on top of your head, or over your head. The Prophet ﷺ has said, fulfill your vow. Narration is authentic. Ah. Inshallah, that I'll say for next class. Okay, everyone? Next class. As far as in regards to what I also wanted to mention, what was mentioned, Sa'id ibn Mansur or Ahmed, even though the hadith is da'if, but the hadith is weak, but the meaning is definitely correct. The meaning, but the hadith isnad is da'if. Isnad is da'if. Even the Imam al-Albani ضعفه في الإرواء الغليل. Anyway, there's a narration that says, do not take a vow in the state while you're angry. Do not take a vow in the state while you're angry. So now, if this hadith is what? It's da'if. It's da'if, it's weak. But of course we know that it also makes sense that if a person was to be upset and highly upset, not to what? Not take a vow. Don't take a vow. Don't take a vow. But if you do it, and you did something that you don't want to fulfill, then what? You have to perform what? Kafarat al-Yamin. Jayyid. Also, alhamdulillah, I agree with what we mentioned last class of what is detested. For example, a person says it's upon me for Allah to divorce a person to divorce his family. Here, a person doesn't do it, rather he's incumbent upon him to perform Kafarat al-Yamin. Jayyid. But that type of another, like we said, is makruh. It's hated and detested. Jayyid. So one does not fulfill it. He makes a vow to divorce his wife, don't do it. Unless he doesn't want to be with her. But at any rate, I'm just joking. Joke. But I'm just saying, if you... It's just stuff. At any rate, that type of another is what? Is makruh. And if he does it, then it's important coming upon him to make kafarat al-yamin. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? But as far as that hadith about the woman, I forgot all about that narration. That narration I'll explain next class. And I want everyone to think which categories of the ones we mentioned which you think that one is. Not now, don't tell me now. Next class. Next class. But any questions about the lesson? Huh? Oh. It's Surah Al-Ma'idah. Oh, I forgot it. I gotta go get it. Allah Akbar. Surah Al-Ma'idah, ayah number 89. Surah Al-Ma'idah, ayah number 89.